Right, I think we'll get started. So, morning everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Kayleen Harrington, and I've recently started at the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce looking after their events programme. So I really hope you're enjoying our July offering of webinars. So thank you so much for attending this morning. I hope everyone had a lovely weekend and enjoyed the glorious sunshine we had. I've put the events link in the chat function, so feel free to view this after the webinar and book on any. They're completely free to attend. James Hale, Head of Digital and Client Services at Naked Marketing, will look to debunk a few myths and provide you with a new way of tackling your digital projects, or a starting point if you have never entered into the digital marketing world before. Digital doesn't always need to seem complicated and out of reach for small and medium-sized businesses. In true Naked style, the webinar will be relaxed and offer a stripped-back approach to marketing, hopefully leaving you with a sense of excitement towards how digital can help or maybe even transform your business. You're welcome to ask him questions during the presentation. There'll also be a live Q&A afterwards. So please use the Q&A function when you have a question. James, over to you.
Thanks, Glenn. Hi everyone. Firstly, obviously I can't see anyone, which is slightly odd when doing these webinars, as we normally do workshops and it's face to face. But hope everybody had a nice weekend, and hopefully you'll find this useful. I'll just share my screen with you so you can all see the presentation. I'll flick through this so you can all have an idea, and I think this probably gets sent around to everybody afterwards if they want to have a look through it. But I think the purpose of today is to try and make digital marketing easier for everybody. I think certainly we have a perception as an agency that digital marketing seems out of reach for some businesses, small and medium-sized businesses in Norfolk especially. And actually, we want to make it accessible for you. We want to make it seem easier. You don't have to do everything in digital marketing, but you can definitely do something. And we would like to think that this presentation will help you to get involved more, will help you to make digital marketing easier, and maybe make you think a little bit differently about how to approach it. So just as a starter, for those of you that don't know, we're Naked Marketing. We're a design, branding, marketing and digital agency. We primarily help small and medium-sized businesses, mainly in Norfolk, but we work across East Anglia. And our job is really here to try and make your business work better for you. And we can obviously, through the medium of marketing and design, make that happen. But it's a bit more than that. We want to give you the toolkit, you the ideas, you the inspiration in some ways to really help your business and take it to the next level. And I guess if today you can just take even one thing away which helps your business, then it's been worthwhile from our behalf, and hopefully worthwhile from your behalf. So hopefully you'll find this webinar mildly interesting or really interesting, and you can take something away which will help your business. So things I hope that we will achieve today is we'll make digital marketing seem a little bit easier for you and your business. We will help you understand the impact digital marketing has on your business, and you will help understand the impact your business has itself on digital marketing. I think there's a perception that digital marketing sometimes sits alone or is just somebody sat in a dark room doing some SEO. Actually, your business itself and the ways in which you operate and you work can impact upon the success of your own digital marketing. And then lastly, I think is something we feel strongly about at Naked is challenge your way of thinking. We want to provide you with some thought-provoking questions, I suppose, because that's the way in which you can improve your marketing, your digital, your business, is by really challenging the way you think at the minute. And I guess many of you have joined the webinar today to do just that, to learn more about digital, to challenge what you do at the minute and how you can make it a little bit better. So here's what the webinar will cover in essence. So we'll go through the digital marketing tools, what you have in your digital marketing armory, I suppose, which can help you promote yourselves, your products and your brand. We'll go through what I think the digital secret is, the one thing or the one big advantage digital has over other forms of marketing, which I think is really important to bear in mind. We'll have a look at how these tools fit into your overall marketing strategy. Bit I've alluded to slightly before, digital does not need to sit separately. It needs to work alongside everything else you do from a marketing perspective and from a business perspective. We'll cover briefly how to measure success. How do you prove that digital works? How do you prove that other forms of marketing work? Then how do you take those results and adapt and improve them so that next time they can be even better? How does digital marketing impact upon your business and its business goals? So that is looking at, okay, you've done digital marketing, here are the results, here's what it's done for the business. Now, does this affect the overall business goals that you set at the beginning of the year or the financial year? And then finally, I'll cover some questions. So as Colleen said, please do post any questions. At the end, I'll answer them all honestly. No question is too stupid or too silly. Please do ask it. If you have a question you don't ask it, you'll never know the answer. So please do ask it, and I'll try my best to give you an answer which will hopefully help you. And I guess the other thing to cover is here, ideally at the end of this, you'll all have a bit more of a desire or a want to either start doing digital marketing or want to do more digital marketing, having potentially realized what it can do for your business and how much of an impact it can make. And then secondly, hopefully it will allow you to take a little more ownership over your digital marketing, your stats and your information, which can help you as a business move and develop forwards rather than having to be so reliant on whether that's others or whether that's looking at Google or whatever it is. Hopefully you can take a bit more ownership over digital yourself. So we'll start with the digital marketing tools or the toolkit. So for us, there are probably potentially hundreds of digital marketing tools out there which you can use, but for us, this is very much the core of it. And at the heart of that is your website. That is always going to be the hub of most of your digital activity. We all head to websites now, so they are vitally important that A, you have one, and B, they perform really, really well. SEO is another, which obviously I think now most people have heard of, search engine optimization. We will cover that, and we will try and debunk a few myths around how difficult and how inaccessible SEO is. It is accessible. Everybody can do something to help SEO. We'll cover Google Ads and their ability to drive new leads. We'll cover social media marketing and how you can use Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn to grow your business as well. We'll look at email marketing, which in my opinion is probably one of the most undervalued forms of digital marketing. We will then look at how you can report on your digital activity and also cover a little bit on website performance and give you a little bit of thinking for how you can make your website better. So we'll start with your website. And for us, this is the most important digital marketing tool you have. I know certainly for myself, and I'm sure many of you are the same, if you see anything you want to know more about these days, you head straight to Google or another search provider. Not that many of us use other search providers, but you head to Google, put in the name of the company, and invariably end up at their website. And then it's the job of that website to either convert you into a sale or in some ways to give you enough information, or potentially if the website's not that good, put you off. So for us, a great website is simple. It will answer these two questions. What do you want your customer to do? And what do you want to say to him? That's it, nothing more. So after today, go and look at your website and ask those two questions. Does it make it easy for your customer to do what you want them to? And do you get across the messages that you want to say to them? And for us, my top tip there is less is more. I think too many websites and too many companies talk too much about what they are good at. And actually, from my perspective, if I'm coming to a website, I don't care too much what you're good at. I want to know why you're good for me, because I'm the customer. I'm the person who's going to be buying either a product or a service from you. So I want to know how you can help me. I don't necessarily want to hear so much about how you're great at this, you're great at that. Tell me what, if you are great at that, what does it mean for me? Why does you being great at X service have a knock-on effect to me? And that's where I think really getting into the mind of your customer. What do you want your customer to do? And for most websites, it will be getting your customer to the point of sale. So if you want a really good example of a website which answers these two questions exceptionally well, look no further than Amazon. Design-wise, it is not the nicest website to look at. And as an agency which specializes in design, this is almost an odd thing for me to say, but their website is so effective that the design of it is almost part of the genius, in that Amazon, essentially, all they want customers to do is buy products. So what does the website do? Makes it super easy to buy products. They make product searches easy, so every time you put in search, you can find products. They have the products you like, products customers also bought when they bought with this. They have the quickest checkout system in the world, as in that it can save your card details. Within 2 clicks, it's ordered, it's turning up next day. Just think how effective that website is at doing the one thing Amazon want their customers to do. Just buy products. There is no real fluff or no real other jargon around the website. It is essentially a really streamlined sales process. And for many businesses, you won't want it to be that streamlined because you'll want to sell the brand and the messaging, but still consider, what do you want your customer to do? And for most of you listening today, you will want your customer to get in touch with you or to buy a product from you. So how can you make your website as good and as effective as possible so that they can do that? And you should consider things like, do you have the right calls to action in the right place? If somebody does want to get in touch with us, how do they get in touch? Is it easy to find the button, or do they have to find a hidden away page? Sometimes these things get lost in web design, that we focus on making something look really nice and lose sight of the fact that actually we're here to get results. So that's one thing I'd say. Go away, look at your website, ask those 2 questions and say, right, do we achieve that? If the answer is yes, can we do it better? If the answer is no, how can we make that so? Is it adding in a new button? Is it changing the wording on our homepage so that it's obvious what we want the customer to do? Just a couple of considerations. I think this is the key to getting a website that will perform well and will mean that customers do not leave the website, and you will convert all of that hard energy to getting somebody onto your website into a sale at the end of it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, website is a hub of everything you do. So whatever form of digital marketing you're doing, whatever form of offline marketing, whatever form of business activity you're undertaking, most of those people will end up at your website. So make sure your website reflects who you are as a company and what you want to say, so that that image is consistent across all forms of marketing. On to the SEO. So for SEO, and I'll apologize briefly for my language here, but how do you get found in an ocean of shite? If you consider just how many companies are on Google now in terms of have a website, and therefore if you put in a search, there are pages, tens, hundreds, thousands of pages. So how do you as a company get to the top of that list for what you want to be at the top at? The simplest, most effective answer to this is to answer the customer's question, be bloody useful, and be easy to use. Those are the 3 things that you do. In essence, Google exists to give its users, i.e. all of us, an answer to a question. That is the sole purpose of Google. So whatever we put into Google as the user, all Google want to do is provide us with the best answer. Therefore, as your website, you need to think, how can we be the best answer to that question? And this is where I think all of you and everyone can impact upon SEO. So granted, there are a number of technical elements that go into producing SEO, and therefore they are required to be done by a specialist because they might require coding or extra bit of knowledge. But in its most basic essence, the things you can all make an impact on is content. We can all write content, or we all have somebody in our business who can write content, which can help SEO. So when I say answer the question, have a think. What questions do you think your customer will be asking which you can answer? And then does your website answer that question? On the homepage text, are you answering the question? Do you have an FAQs page which answers questions? Because they're quite effective at coming up in search. I'm sure many of you have seen, if you type a question into Google now, often Google brings up a little snippet or an answer itself. It simply grabbed that from the website it thinks answers the question the best. So how can you become that website? So really look at your content, really look at what you're trying to answer and make sure you do it effectively. If you think about it, how many times do you go to a website and read all of the content on there? You never do. So make sure those first couple of paragraphs are really good content which engages and answers the question of your audience. And that is the best way for you to keep them and then drive them into being an effective sale. Now, how does that help SEO? Google, in effect, will store all of the data and all of the metrics you're getting from your customers. Google knows how long they spend on the website. Google knows which pages they visit. Google knows whether they go on to hit your events and your goals you've set. And therefore, Google knows how good your website is at performing. Therefore, if your content's good, if you've got good engagement on your website, if your customers, potential customers are beginning to get in touch, Google can therefore see that you're a website that is answering the question. Therefore, you are likely to climb up the rankings. So I think this is where we would like to debunk the myth of SEO is a dark art. It's done by people in dark rooms who just have a special touch and can make magic happen. That's not the case. Everybody can impact upon SEO. And I think as we go through this presentation, you'll see other ways in which you can impact too. But everybody can have an impact upon it, whether that's through content, whether that's through driving traffic to your website from other sources. If you consider, say you go to a trade show and you entice people into your website with an offer at a trade show. If all of those customers then head to your website and end up taking up the offer, by the nature of sending 200 customers to your website that engage well, that then go on to convert, that's going to help your SEO as well. All of a sudden you've got a website which has performed really, really well for a particular page. So that gives that page a much better chance of ranking. And how has the SEO improved on that page? That's improved by simply going to a trade show and offering a really nice offer. So everything you do from a marketing perspective can help your SEO. It's not a case of just coming to an agency or speaking with a friend saying, how can I get to the top of the rankings? It's not a case of somebody sat in a dark room just making magic happen. Actually, it will happen over a period of time, and it will happen by just being really, really useful as a website. That is your sole goal. Be useful, be easy to use, and answer the questions your customers have. Next up is Google Ads. So as I say here, you're paying for every click most of the time, so you better make them good. Google Ads are a brilliant way of driving new leads to your website. They're also a potential money pit in that if you run Google Ads, you don't monitor them, you don't look at them, they can become very, very expensive and very, very cost draining for your business if you don't keep on top of them. So what I'll try and give you here today is not here's how to do Google Ads, but just a little bit of an idea for how you can make your Google Ads more effective. If you're going through the effort of spending the money, setting up the ads to drive new sales, whether that's a product or a service, you want to make that ad as good as possible so that it can compete against your competitors. So how can you do that? For example, most Google Ads, in my opinion, are really, really boring. They'll say something like, are you looking for cheap flooring? And that is, for me, an advert where a boss has come up to a marketing executive or somebody in the business said, right, I think we need to do Google Ads. Can you get one up? And that is just, okay, yeah, I'll get one up. Are you looking for cheap flooring? That isn't what we're going to need to create the results we want. So that's where I've put in here, again, apologies for language, but find the fucking emotion. As a customer, we want to have that emotive connection. That is what drives us to purchase all of the time. There is always, always, always an emotional connection. That is the thing which will make the difference for all of your advertising, whether that's on Google, whether that's in a newspaper, whether that's on EDP, whatever it is. Finding the emotion and finding the emotional connection between your product and service and your customer is the absolute key to advertising gold. And good examples of this are probably Nike and McDonald's are two of the best you'll see. I don't know if anybody saw recently, probably at the start of lockdown actually, Nike's advertising campaign of stay at home, play for the world. From a content perspective is absolutely brilliant. That's Nike knowing to a T their customer of a sports audience who have all dreamt of being a sportsman one day and playing in front of thousands. That is the emotional connection there for their audience. And they've said, right now, you have the ability to play for everybody in the world and all you need to do is stay at home. Right there in those stay at home, play for the world, they've created the connection between their audience's emotion and feelings and youthful attitude to telling them to do something now. That is a great example of using ads and emotion. And McDonald's equally, I think we'd probably all agree, sell pretty average fast food. But what they do so well is they find that emotional connection to their audience. And every time it's the same message. It's consistency, it's family, it's safety, it's comfort. No matter where you are in the world, if you see a McDonald's, you know if you go into that McDonald's, you will instantly begin to feel familiarity, safety, comfort, warmth. And that is what made them so successful, is that they could deliver that every time. And the food was just a byproduct, really. And actually McDonald's real USP there is their ability to connect to their audience so that families every time know what they're getting when they walk into a McDonald's. Another things to consider is if you're running Google Ads, what are you offering? Don't just run an ad to just link to your website. Make sure the ad offers something or tempts the customer in some way. What is it your customer would really be tempted by? So have a consider of, okay, these are our customers. What would really tempt them to buy? And then how do you use that in your ad? How can you tempt them in? All it needs to be is a little bit of a hook to pull them in. So that's why I say don't make the advert boring and generic. Find that hook for them. So a couple of things for you to consider here around advertising. I don't know how many of you would be familiar with a thing called behavioural science, but a guy called Rory Sutherland, he's the expert in this. And I've got a couple of practical examples here of how you can find emotion and how us as customers and as people follow certain habits, and therefore we can use adverts to lean on those. So sometimes as businesses, we always focus on what we're really good at. And all of us focus on that because we think that's the best way to sell to our customer. But actually, what if you flip that and considered that sometimes not messing up is more important than how great something is? Actually, the reason we buy a lot of the time is that we buy because we know we won't be let down, rather than buying something because you're like, oh, that's so good, I have to have that. It's where John Lewis fits really well into the market. They've always been really good at not messing up. They have, on electricals, for example, they have the 3-year guarantee. They have the safety in knowing if you go to John Lewis and something goes wrong, it will get sorted, it will get fixed. And therefore, that is why you're sometimes prepared to pay a little bit more to go and use them over somebody else, because they don't mess up. And there is a huge value on that. And I think that's something to really consider for some companies, especially those that sit within sectors such as trade. I think some trades, whether it's builders, plumbers, etc., have a reputation of not turning up on time or running over budget or just being slightly cowboy at times. Well, think if you're a company that works within one of those trades, but they're really good at what you do, actually your biggest selling point is the fact that you turn up on time every time. It's nothing more than that. There's a real strength in that because it's something that you do better than your competitors, and it's you not messing up. And I think that's the same across a number of industries. So sometimes go away and think, okay, as a business, what do we do really well? And then kind of flip it and say, right, what do we mess up less than our competitors? Because there's a strength in that. There's a strength in you're still doing it better than your competitors, and actually there's a strength in knowing what they're not so good at. So really consider that, because it might be that you can use that in some way as your hook in your ads. The next point is something called loss aversion, which is the idea that it's harder to lose something than it is to get something new. So I don't know how many people during lockdown have been using Netflix or Amazon Prime, but both of those things sell on loss aversion. So what they do is they give you a free trial, they let you experience what it is, and then all of a sudden you don't want to lose it. So you carry on paying the £5, £9, whatever it is a month, because all of a sudden you feel you can't live without it. If they'd come to you at the start and said it was £9.99 a month, you probably wouldn't have signed up because you thought, I don't need that. But because they gave you a free trial, because they showed you what they could offer you in your life, all of a sudden you felt you couldn't go without that anymore. And now you keep subscribing. And that's something to consider as a company too. Can you offer a free audit to your customers? Could you offer something for free which just gives you the opportunity to show them how good you are, firstly, and secondly, they could begin to think, why haven't I been doing this before? I can't go without this anymore. And that's a great thing to offer for Google Ads. If you're offering a free audit or a free site survey or something along those lines, as human beings, we love free stuff and we're happy to sign up for free stuff because we've got nothing to lose. But actually, it's a really, really clever way of selling. You get them in with the free, you hook them, you show them how good you are, and then all of a sudden they feel they can't live without it. And now you've got them paying monthly for it. So consider that. Do you have a product or a service that you can just tease them with to get them signed up, whereby you can keep them forevermore? And if you don't, could you create a new service or a new offering such as a free audit? And therefore, if you do create that, that'd be a great Google ad to run. Say, we're offering a free audit that is guaranteed to get a good level of click-throughs, a good level of sign up. And the final one is social proofing. Tempting people with the fear of missing out. If we think, as humans, if we think others have something, we often think, well, that must be good because they've got it. And where this is really, really good is that in a Google ad, for example, you could put something like 97% of customers think. And just by putting that as your Google ad headline, all of a sudden the customers are thinking, well, if it's good enough for those other 97% of people, it's going to be good enough for me. I want to check that out. It's just, you have the opportunity to lean on human emotion to find yourself the hook, to grab people, pull them into your business. So it's just a case of considering how you can get people to click through on your ads to your website, and then bits we've spoken about on the website before to improve it, to help us convert, which we'll come on to again shortly, can then turn those clicks into conversions. So it's just trying to get you to think a little bit differently, which is why my top tip is be your customer, not the ad creator. Really think about who you are as a customer. Right, what would tempt me to click? And then make the ad around that. Don't just make an ad about something that you know your business is good at, because your customer might not understand that. All of us are guilty in our industries of using acronyms or using words that we really understand. But what about your customer? Do they understand it? For example, what's the difference between car leasing and car finance? In essence, they're going to be the same thing, but your customer might understand one as one thing and one as another. So use the one that your customer understands. Don't use the one that you understand. And that's probably a good example of considering for your business, what does your customer call it? Call it that. Don't call it what the industry calls it, because you need to attract your customers. Social media marketing. So all of us will be familiar with social media and the ability for it to be viral and trends and various mediums. But our top tip for social media is always being honest to your audience and not social trends. I think we see too much companies like solicitors who sit in a very professional marketplace. There's a certain expectation on solicitors to provide a certain level of service. All of a sudden throwing away all of their brand values, tone of voice, etc., to go and chase a social trend of, I don't know, some silly dance on TikTok or something like that, because they want to try and catch on to that viral ability or audience. And actually, all that's doing is taking the customer away from who you are and what you represent. So social media should always be an extension of who you are as a company, what you want to say to your customers, and what you need to represent. And yes, you can be fun with that. Yes, you can be engaging with that, but don't go doing silly things beyond that and stretching what you are as a brand. Stick to what you're good at and really take ownership over that. It's probably my top tip for social media. In terms of how do you make it successful, timing is always critical. So have a think about, again, your customer. So if your customer is working most of the day, consider the times you're going to be able to get most access to them. So if you're a B2C type company, you're going to get hold of your customer best on, say, commuter hours. So when they're on, obviously they won't be at the minute, but when they're on buses, trains, when they get home, when they're about in the evening. So consider your timing. There's no point posting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if your key customer is working at that time, because you're ineffectively missing out. Social media is quick and it's instant, and therefore they might never ever see that post if your timing's wrong. So really consider that and really work out when's the best time, and then test. Try different times, try different days, find out which one works best for you, and then keep improving. That'd be another tip for you. And don't do everything. We see it so often that clients come to us and say, right, we need Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. You don't need all of those. You need the ones that work for you. So consider each of the different social medias for itself and work out whether that works for you. So everybody have Facebook, but how effective is Facebook for you if you're B2B? Probably not very effective at all. Twitter's going to be more effective, and probably LinkedIn even more so, because you need to get direct access to the person who you want to buy from you as a B2B. So really look at each of the social media platforms and find out which ones suit your customer the best, and then use those. Don't just use all of them because you think you need all of them. You don't. If you're spending hours of energy on creating Facebook posts, keeping up to date, but it's actually not doing anything, as in it's not driving any leads, it's getting little interaction, then ultimately you're just there wasting time making Facebook try and work, when actually you could invest that time into LinkedIn or Twitter or any other form of social media, and that could drive some sales and some leads. So this is where, as we'll come on to, Google Analytics can tie in and show you the effectiveness of your social media. But yeah, don't just run all social media just because they're all there. Do the ones that work best for your business and do them well. That doesn't mean posting every day. It doesn't even need to mean posting every week. But what it does mean is, when you're posting, are you offering value to your customer? Always consider that. I think too often we see companies that just, I need to get a post out this week, I need to get one this week, and they end up putting a post out and it's like, oh, isn't the weather nice today or something. It's very little value to anybody, and therefore you're probably better off not doing the post. Every post you want to do needs to add some level of value, expertise, or insight to your customers. And if it isn't, have a rethink, come up with something else. That would be top tip there. Make sure you're always adding value with your social media, not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Email marketing. As I mentioned, I think at the top of this presentation, for me, this is the most undervalued form of digital marketing. It allows you to send whatever message you want your company to send directly to your customers. Not many other forms of digital marketing allow you to do that. In social media, your message might get in front of them, whereas in email marketing, it absolutely will get in front of them. Even if they see the email in their inbox and delete it, the message still got in front of them, and therefore if they deleted it, the message wasn't good enough. But you have the ability to directly get what you want to say right to your customer, and that is very, very powerful. So how do you create email marketing which is effective? Firstly, nail the subject line. Make sure it's engaging. Similar to the Google Ads bits we mentioned earlier, how can you hook them in? How can you make them click onto the email? I'm guilty of it. I have a number of emails in my inbox, and if the subject line doesn't tempt me in, I just delete it. We don't want our customers doing that. So how can we make the subject line engaging? consider things like questions. They're a really good way of driving people in because we instinctively think, oh, what is the answer? Or I need to answer that. Consider emojis, perhaps, a bit more of a friendly approach to it. Questions and emojis we've seen in the work we've done are proven quite effective in terms of getting additional open rates. Or can you condense what you want the email to say down into 4 to 8 words and use that as a subject line? But either way, that is the most important bit on your email. Get the subject line right, and then people will open it. Then your next step is, having got people to open it, you then have to get people to action from it. So rank the priority of your messaging. I think we see too often our clients want to put every message they've got on an email, and therefore it turns into an email newsletter. It updates everyone on everything that's happening in the company. Actually, why are you doing this email? Are you doing this email to update everybody from a brand exercise, in which case a newsletter is perfect? Or are you doing this email to create extra sales or extra leads? If it's sales or leads, then in essence, you might only need one message on this email. It might just be click here to find out more. It doesn't need to include all of the other information. Actually, let's make this email as effective as possible. So one thing I put here, rank priority of message. Journalists are taught that if they write an article, somebody should be able to come along and literally cut out 90% of it and just read the top paragraph and still know what the rest of it would have said if it needed to be cut. Similar with an email, make sure all of your key information you want, your key message, your key call to action is at the top of that email, because lots of us open emails in preview windows. So can we see the message we want to see straight away and quick enough? So that's why ranking priority is great. Another tip to try is try what I call the idiot test. So does it make sense? Again, something I mentioned earlier, all of us use industry terminology, acronyms, etc. Once you put your email together, once it's in a test format, run it by somebody who doesn't know you or your business very well. And sometimes kids are great for this because they just say the obvious. And it just means that you've run it by somebody else who doesn't understand your business. And therefore, if they can understand what they need to do from the email, all of your customers will. There's nothing worse than sending an email out and your customers not understanding it or not getting what you want them to do. Make it easy for your customer, make it quick for your customer, and you're going to get a much better response rate from your email marketing. And then the other one I always try is flick through emails. So if I get a test email into my inbox, if I just flick through my emails, if it doesn't make me stop and want to open it, then the subject line is not good enough and the little bit of intro text is not good enough, and therefore I will go back and look to make it better. So that's just a case of a little test for yourself. Once you've got a email set up to send, flick through your inbox. If it doesn't grab your attention, if it doesn't make you stop and you're the one who created it, then you're going to need to go back and try and improve that. That's just a quick way of trying to make it as effective as possible. And then you can look at stats once you've sent out your email marketing. Okay, how many people opened that? Great, 90% of people opened it. Next time, how do we make it 95%? Could we try a question subject line? Could we try an emoji? Will that make a difference? Test and learn, and therefore you're going to really improve your email marketing. And the real power of email marketing is it sends the message you want direct to your customer, and it then sends them direct to your website to do what you want them to do, and it can really create an uplift in sales. Which leads me nicely on to digital reporting. And again, this is something I think that many businesses think is beyond them, or Google Analytics is too complicated. Google Analytics is really, really simple. I think if you find it too complicated, just speak with somebody who understands analytics, whether that's just coming to me and asking me. I can very quickly point you in the direction of a couple of things you should look at in analytics to really help you understand it. You don't need to use the whole suite of analytics, and you don't need to use every report, but there are some there which are absolutely critical for you to use. So if you aren't using Google Analytics, you absolutely have to. And if you are using Google Analytics, you absolutely have to use it more. It's powered by numbers. It allows you to measure success, and it allows you, based on that success, to make changes, to measure success again, and to improve again. The best thing is it's free. Do not have to spend a penny to use Google Analytics. It is free data for your business. You absolutely have to use it. So it allows you as a business to answer a few key questions, such as what percentage of our customers visit the contact page, or what percentage of our customers purchase. These are absolutely gold dust for any business whatsoever. It allows you to build benchmark statistics. So you can be like 1% of every customer that visits our website goes on to buy a product, say. So all of a sudden, that's your benchmark. And then you can set yourself a target. Say, right, how can we make 1%, 2%? And if you do make 1%, 2%, all of a sudden you've doubled sales online. And now we're talking huge numbers now. We're talking a huge increase in sales, which ultimately affect business revenue, profits, bottom line, all of those kind of things, just by looking at the effectiveness of your website. And the reason we want to focus so much on digital reporting is that marketing in its very essence has always been about driving new leads. It always has. It's the reason every company wants to do marketing. We want to do marketing so we can get more customers. Now, getting more customers is great, but just consider you might be doing enough marketing activity to get the right kind of customers. You might be getting 2,000 customers a month, but only converting 10 of those into sales. So actually your problem lies in the conversion of your existing customers and not in gathering new customers. Think how much money you would have to spend to get another 200 customers to your site through other forms of marketing, whether it's press advertising, social media marketing, etc. When actually you could spend £0 just converting those who are already on your website better. And that is where Google Analytics will give you the answers. You will be able to build those benchmark statistics to know in a year, in a month, exactly how many customers do what you want them to do, fill in a form, get in touch, buy a product. And you can then compare them year on year, month on month. So you can see comparatively, okay, this year we're converting our customers much better. Great. What are we doing better this year? Did we change something on our website? Are the sales team out on the road just doing something a little bit better? It allows you to improve your overall business. This isn't just looking at digital reporting to make your digital marketing better. This is looking at digital to make your whole business better. Everything you do from a digital reporting perspective can improve your entire business. And ultimately where it begins to get, because many of you will be trying to prove the effectiveness of digital marketing to a boss or an owner, Google Analytics will be your friend. It will allow you to go to your boss and say, right, this year compared to last year, we've converted 15% more sales online. Now there's a value to that, to your boss. That means, I don't know, X number more pounds in the bank. All of a sudden you're beginning to show a value to digital marketing. You're showing a value to the work you're doing from a marketing perspective, and you're showing a value to the business. And that's where it's really, really powerful. Other ways in which you can use it is if you send out an email marketing campaign, you can tie the two together. So you can see how many people who opened the email ended up going to the website. Did any of those go on to purchase? So for example, say you were a hotel, you sent out an offer in an email, you can see how many people from that email ended up buying a room for the night, and therefore you can give a value to that. So you can then go, right, that email, which we spent £600 on, created a revenue of £2,000. Let's do it again. We've proved it works. That's where you can really, really use digital to your advantage. Other forms of marketing have always struggled to show that return on investment. Digital can do that comfortably just by you using Google Analytics. And it's really, really simple. There's just a couple of reports you need to look at. Of course, you can go into more detail. If you're an e-commerce website, you can use things like funnels. So you can show your customer journey from start to end and see where people drop out of the buying process. Companies like Amazon would use this all the time. It's really, really effective. They can see, okay, customers always drop out of the card details page. Why is that? It might be as simple as the card booking software that you have doesn't work most of the time, and it's nothing to do with you. It's the fact that you're getting let down by technology. Or it could be that your message at the time just isn't quite right and doesn't give enough confidence to your customer. So really use the ability of Google Analytics to provide you answers for what you are doing and aren't doing well in terms of your website and overall marketing. Which leads me on to website performance. So having looked at Google Analytics, we can work out what works and what doesn't. So your website's now looking great. You've got the right messages on there. Is it performing great? One thing I think we see too much, especially when doing new websites, is websites really getting passed around the company for how do you think it looks? What do you think? And ultimately, without being too crude, what me and you think of a website that we're designing for you, it doesn't matter a whole heap. What matters is what your customers think, because they're the ones who buy from you. And therefore, if you're doing changes to your website, or if you're creating a brand new website, consider running it by some friends, people you don't know very much, or your existing customer database to say, right, what do you think to this? Does it work? Because what me and you think, we're very, very biased over things because we know and understand the business well. Actually, your customers are the one that are going to determine whether your website is successful or not. Not me or you, not you or your boss. It's all about your customers. So that is one consideration. The second one is, which links in with what I said a minute ago, is the website bringing in enough leads? So as I've always said, marketing is focused on driving new leads. What if you've already got enough leads? Take a look at analytics. You can go to your boss and say, look, in the last year, the website has provided 600 people who filled in the contact form. Is 600 leads enough? How many is that a month? We had 50 leads a month. Is that enough? And your boss might be like, yeah, that's loads. Great, we've already got enough. How can we, therefore, the focus then is on the after sales team, or the sales team that pick up the contact inquiries. Why aren't they converting them into sales? Maybe it's not to do with the website. Maybe it's to do with the process after. And here Google Analytics can begin to provide you some of the answers. And as I've mentioned previously, it's a lot easier and cheaper to convert existing leads than find new ones. And that's important because it's easier and cheaper, and we always want effective and cheaper marketing. That makes sense. And equally, we want that process, which I would call your internal process, the things you can manage. You can manage how well your website performs because it's under your control. And once that's really, really effective, then is the time to go and drive new traffic. Because if your website isn't set up to perform well, it's very, very difficult then to go and show a value. You could then drive 100,000 new customers to your website. But if your website's not performing, you spend so much time, so much energy, so much money on pulling new customers in, but you know they're not going to convert very well. That just doesn't make sense. So make sure that your website as it is now is converting well and efficiently, then go and drive new customers to it, because you know, based on your benchmark statistics earlier, 1 in 100 customers buy a product from us. So that means you can then go, right, if we got another 500 new customers, that means we're going to get X number more buy from us, because your benchmark statistic says that is the rate you convert at. So therefore, you can then begin to put a value on how much you can spend getting the new customers in based on how many you know of those will purchase. So if you know that it's going to get you another 10 customers and they're all going to spend £100 each, then you're going to create another £1,000. So spending £200 on Facebook advertising to drive those customers in is probably worth it. And it's just allowing you to constantly show success, return on investment, budget for future spend, and show to you, or if you're an owner of a business, show to your employers and your staff, look, this is a great way of us driving new leads effectively. And we've proven that if we get X number, we can convert them. Therefore, we're going to spend this much. And it helps you to budget, helps you to plan, it helps you to be more successful. It just means that by looking at analytics, looking at your website performance, adapting and improving, it's really reducing your wastage of spend on marketing. I think it would be, and as somebody who works in marketing, I think it's probably one of the biggest criticisms of marketing itself is it can become expensive, or people don't understand it. Actually, you have the ability to take control of it and say, right, here's how much we're going to spend. Here's how much we know it'll make us. And therefore your marketing is going to become an investment rather than a cost. And that is the dream scenario. The moment your marketing is an investment, not a cost, you are winning. And that's where we want to get into. So digital secret, as I see it. So digital is absolutely everywhere. It's your TV, it's your phone, it's your tablet. You go to a shopping centre, you see the digital ad board. You go on your catch-up TV services on Netflix, there's adverts on there. You go to social media. It's absolutely everywhere, which means that you have lots of potential touch points with your customer, whether that's Instagram ads, Google ads, website, whether it's the adverts people see when they're driving along, or whether it's bus advertising, which is offline. They all tie in to digital. And the big advantage that has is it's the best type, as I say, the best type of selling is not by selling, it's where the subconscious does it for you. So if you've got all these little touch points where you can just reinforce your sales message or reinforce your key message, they're all going to build together. And I think my best analogy for this is, if you want a dog, but your partner doesn't, if you outright walk up to them and say, can we get a dog? The answer is likely to be no. And that is how some form of marketing works, such as things through the post or telesales. It's very, very direct, and often you get a very resistant answer. But what if you walked up to your partner and tackled it in smaller chunks? What if you said that a dog would be great for companionship one day, and then when you're out on a walk the next day, you said, oh, it'd be nice to share this with a dog? What if you said how good dogs were for kids and family time? What if every time you're on Facebook and you saw a dog video, you showed them? What if you showed them how much love dogs give when you see them on TV or on your phone? All of a sudden, if you're doing this over a period of time, you're beginning to sell them slowly the idea, to the point where actually their subconscious begins to think it's their idea. And all of a sudden they're like, should we get a dog? And you obviously say yes. And that is in effect how digital marketing works. Those little touch points, little and often, at the right time, will reinforce the message you want and end with a sale. It's not a wham, bang, there you go, do you want it or not? You have the ability, because you have so many options at your digital touch point, that you can link them all together to create you a really, really strong sales message. And for us, that's digital secret. It's the ability for you to tie in so many different avenues, so many different walks of life of your customer to create a succinct sales message. And that is hugely powerful if you do it correctly. So just take a look at what you do from a digital marketing perspective now. What channels do you use? Do they all work and tie in together? Don't have them running separately. Don't have Instagram running one separate sales message and Google ads doing another. They need to be working to the same goal. What you're trying to achieve here, and that is the digital secret. And also, digital marketing's at the, what I would call the sharp end. So lots of marketing tactics and techniques, not digital, or some are digital, some are offline. They're all about driving leads, and digital is about that as well. But digital allows you to really convert and be the last touch point. And that is a huge advantage of digital too. In that, for example, paper advertising is great at potentially driving leads, but you can never prove the value of it or how many people go on to purchase, because it's not the last touch point, where digital is. And that's where you can use analytics and the data that it gives you to really begin to show a value over your conversions. So overall strategy, and this is where I mentioned your website is the hub of all activity. And if you take one of these steps out, which I'm going to talk you through now, all of a sudden it's not quite as effective. So I think a really good example here is buying a new home, for example. So I've used the example here of one of our clients, Able Homes. So you've got potential customers driving along in their car, and the first interaction they have with the brand is seeing the sign or a flag outside a new homes development. They see the sign or the flag and they think, oh yeah. They stop in and they look at the show home. So they walk into the sales office, they look at the show home, and then they pick up a brochure. So there's no digital touch points yet. From the brochure, they will then head to Google to find out more. So as you can see, they're put in Able Homes. They then head to the website, and now you've got them at the digital end and your ability to convert. And this is where I say that offline activity or entire business activity also has an ability for you to convert sales, because actually your customers are offline to start with. They just drive along, see a sign, walk into a show home, and they don't become digital until the end. But digital is what converts them. But all of those other efforts, the signage, the show home, the customer service staff, they're nothing to do with digital, but they really impact upon your digital ability. So that's where everything plays into it. And I am a bit conscious of time now, so I will speed through the last couple of bits. But measuring success is one thing I think we've covered in detail already, but use analytics, use the data at your fingertips from email marketing, whatever form it is, to work out what's working and what's not. And then that allows you to improve for the future. And based on those results, you can then set yourself business goals, such as last year, we converted 1% of all website traffic into sales. Next year, our business goal is, can we make it 2%? And that's where it all ties into a bigger picture for the business overall. So I will then pass back to Colleen, who hopefully will have a few questions. And sorry if I've rambled on too long.
That's all right, James. So we are coming up to 11:30. Obviously, we would like to tackle the Q&As, but appreciate that some people might need to leave. So if you do need to leave, then thank you so much for attending. If you're happy to stay on, and we have got some great questions. So first one up is, where do Google Ads appear?
So Google Ads, it depends what type you run, but typically they appear at the top of search. If you head to Google now, put a search in, there'll probably be 2 or 3 at the top, which will say Google Ads, and there might even be some at the bottom. It depends. Google often mix it up where they show them, which is, again, themselves using test and learn. They're testing, do they work better at the top or at the bottom? Typically, you'll see them at the top. Equally, Google Ads, you can run what's called display ads. So they will then show up on websites that have advertising space, sometimes on the right, sometimes that's on like a YouTube video where still adverts pop up. So it depends what type of Google Ads you run, but typically they will show up at the top of the search results.
Thanks. So the next one we've got is there an optimal length of email for email marketing? And is there any magic formula for including images/videos, etc.?
Optimal length, probably not. In my opinion, I actually think that shorter email marketing works better. I think it's pretty rare that people ever scroll all the way to the bottom and read everything. Actually, what's the email trying to achieve? Just make that happen. So for me, shorter is more optimal. In terms of, is there a magic formula for including images and videos? This is actually really tricky because emails need to work well primarily on phones and tablets. Images and videos are actually really, really tricky to use sometimes because they just don't load or don't format properly on a variety of phone sizes. So there is no optimal way to do it. But if you are going to use an image or a video, I would say to use that at the top as a way to grab attention rather than hiding it down the page. And if you are using an image, again, don't just use one to use one. Use one if it really adds a value to what you're trying to say or sell.
Thank you. So we just got a few more questions. So we've had a pre-submitted question from Claire Stiles. Do you think I need specifically designed content for Facebook advertising, or can I just boost my posts and achieve the same results to get people to consider rejoining the cadet forces as volunteer instructors?
It depends on what the original post is. Typically, I would say create new content. So if you're trying to get people to consider rejoining the cadet forces, use a couple of things we've discussed today, such as what emotionally is going to make them want to rejoin, and then use that as your hook for the Facebook advert, rather than just reposting a want to join the cadet forces type Facebook post and boosting that. Actually, maybe run a Facebook advert which creates some kind of emotional connection, which really encourages them to rejoin. So therefore do it separately. I think my advice would always be, if you're going to do advertising, do it slightly separately. It allows you to be a bit more creative, whereas an actual post itself is often more informative, whereas an advert is your ability to be a bit more creative on the sales front.
Thank you. She had another question. I'm ready to collaborate with other organisations to hold virtual events as a way of marketing the Cadet Force adult volunteering opportunities in lieu of the in-person events we used to organise. But what is the best way to then follow up a webinar and make it really easy for people to maybe buy a product or apply to join a Cadet Force?
So I think this really depends on your audience. So for some, you do a webinar and then the best follow-up is on the phone. And I think, to be honest, for most industries and most things, follow-up on the phone is best if you have that ability and have that detail, because A, it's more personable, B, it's more direct. It allows you to have a conversation with them, and very, very quickly you can learn if they are interested in rejoining or signing up or buying something or not. Whereas if you send out an email following up, it's very ignorable. Whereas a phone call isn't, and a phone call allows you to much more quickly get to the point. So I'd probably say, if you've done a webinar, if you felt there was interest, if you can follow up with a phone call to start with, brilliant. If you can't get hold of them on the phone, then follow it up with an email, which is really crafted around what you've been trying to sell. And that is your best way to do it. I think just generically sending an email thereafter probably has very little success in most instances.
Thanks, and thank you to everyone who's staying on. We've just got 2 more questions and then I promise we are done. And so this question is from Helen Brown. How would you suggest focusing your website if you want to attract more than one stream of customers? Our charity want to attract new clients, recruit volunteers and attract donors.
So I think in that instance, the key is to work out, by the sounds of things you've already done, who are the key people you want to attract. And then I think probably lots of websites have historically kind of been designed with like a big header image, like one big image at the top. I think in an instance like that, where you have more than one customer to attract, you can maybe look at getting rid of a big header image and maybe splitting it up, maybe asking a question such as, what have you come to the website for? And then have a drop down which says, I'm a donor, or I want to support, or I want to get involved, something like that. Your other option is to use your menu bar at the top and clearly detail what you offer. So for us as Naked, we used to have, we're in the middle of designing ours at the minute. We used to just have what we do, whereas we're now going to say digital, branding, design, marketing, clearly separating at the top the 4 avenues we offer, rather than hiding them all under like what we do. So that's a clear way to do it. You could use your menu at the top to clearly differentiate. So anybody that comes straight to the website can go, oh, cool, I can get involved in this way, or I can get involved in that way. Another good idea to use is look at other competitors in your industry, or look at other people who have multi-channel people to target and have a look at what they do. But I think the best way is to, often in that instance where you have very different audiences, ask a question with like sometimes a little drop-down menu. So what are you visiting for, or what are you looking for? And therefore, whatever option they decide then sends them to a separate part of the website. So you're actively directing them rather than hoping they find the right area.
That's great advice. And the final question is from Phil Harris. Is it a good idea to include links in an email? MailChimp reports what is clicked on.
Yeah, absolutely. Always include links in an email, especially, so often you'll be sending an email out and you'll want to drive people to a particular page on your website, whether that's a sales page, contact page, home page, whatever it is. So include a link to that page. If it's an image they're clicking on, link to that page. If it's a text link, click to that page, because as you say, MailChimp can report on that, or other tools, Smart Messenger, whatever you use, can report on how many people click on it. And that's a great way to do it too. You can go, right, 100 people open the email, 10 clicked on that link. So all of a sudden you now know I can get 1 in 10 to click through. If you send the next email and only 5 click through, maybe the sales message or the click through wasn't as clear as last time, and therefore next time you can make it clearer. So yeah, always include links, and then always look at the stats after to see how well it performed.
Thanks. So that's it. Thank you everyone who stayed on. James, we've also got a message from David Eastwood saying, thank you, James, for a great presentation, very thought-provoking and some great tips and information. So yeah, just a massive thank you to everyone who attended. Also a massive thank you to James. I definitely found that more than mildly interesting. I hope everyone's enjoyed today. I'll send out the presentation to everyone who attended. This has been recorded, so again, I'll share the recording once it's available. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, and we really hope to see you again soon. Bye everyone.
Bye.